Hello, I'd like to welcome you to the first premiere edition of the Armchair Economist. If you find this video useful, please consider subscribing. Today I'd like to show you the basic calculation of business earnings and ROI, return on investment. Now at home we're all aware of going to work. We get a paycheck at the end of the year. We got to pay taxes on that income or earnings. But in the business world, earnings has a different meaning. Everyone knows businesses have a profit. Profit in the business world is the same thing as earnings. And earnings is equal to revenue minus expenses. Now, in today's example, we're going to fabricate a company that has expenses of $800,000 per this period. Now, this period could be a week or a month, or in this example I'd like to use today, a quarter. A year is divided up into 4 quarters. First quarter is January, February, and March. Q2 is April, May, and June. Q3 is July, August, September. And Q4 is October, November, and the all-important December. Alright, so for today's example, it's back here to $800,000 in expenses. What does a company's expenses break down to? Primarily between labor and materials. Those are most companies' 2 largest expenses. Now, a company will take the labor and materials and either provide services for their clients for which they're billed for, or will produce goods to sell to consumers, and consumers will pay for those goods. We'll take raw goods and turn them into finished goods or intermediate goods, or like a retailer will purchase goods from a wholesaler and then turn around and retail them, in the case, and then sell those to consumers. So all these with the intent of generating some revenue. So let's just fabricate a revenue of $1 million for this first quarter. And earnings is equal to revenue minus expenses. So in Q1, this particular company earned $200,000. That's great and wonderful and all, but we want to see, how good is good. Maybe we want to compare this quarter to the previous quarter, or we want to compare this quarter to the quarter of the year before, or we want to compare between companies. And since not all companies are going to have the exact same revenue or same expenses or earnings, we might compare a small company to a large company and see if, in a relative sense, with context, are they spending their money wisely? Now, to determine this, we're going to take the revenue here and the expenses here and bring those down. And we're going to calculate a return on investment. We're going to figure out how these things go in a percentage-wise. So return on investment, ROI, is equal to revenue divided by expenses, what the company invested in. You invest in labor, a company will invest in labor, will invest in materials, and with the intent of turning around and making a profit off of that. Did it again. And what I need to do in my little math thing here is put in -1. There we go. So we had 25% return on investment. We invested $800,000 and we received 25% more than that in revenue. So we had earnings of $200,000. This number here needs to match this number over here. So we know our math is good. Well, for the next quarter, we're going to take this revenue here, we're going to turn right around and invest it again. And let's say that it makes, turns that investment into $1.2 million. And $1.2 million is definitely better than $1 million. But then again, don't forget, we also spent more than we started with. We spent more than in the quarter before. And we want to see how that turns out in a relative sense, in context. So we'll start with our math here. We just pull that down there. It shows up 20%. So we can see that our goods and services provided, our consumers and clients, did not value that as much in this quarter as it did in the prior quarter, even though we spent more. We spent more, yeah, but we didn't make anymore. We made the same amount. We should say this number was just a little bit. We'll say this is just up just a smidgen more. It would still be, this number might be greater, but in a relative sense, not as great. So let's carry this principle on further to the third quarter. We'll take our revenue from here, invest it again in our people and in our materials, and provide consumers. Let's just say for whatever reason, this quarter, Q3, did not turn out very good at all. All right, come back over here. Now we can all eyeball this and see that we made less money. We can figure it out in our heads. It's $300,000 less, but in a relative sense, percentage-wise, now we have a concrete number to make a fair appraisal, like between companies and between the same periods, like in the years prior. All right, so that's terrible, that's tragic, you got to get beyond it. It's not all that uncommon in the business world to lose some money on some quarters. You just got to get over it. And maybe we're just really, maybe this is a nice retail business and we are really counting on Black Friday to save our bacon. So let's say we make $1.2 million again. All right, pull our math down and we can eyeball this. We can see this is good. Now we have a number to quantify that with, 33%. We want to total up and see how all this stuff turns out for the year so we can compare, say, our company again, or this company against any other company in the same business or industry, and we can even compare it across industries. So in this example, this company that spent or invested $3.9 million, brought home a revenue of $4.3 million for a $4 million profit, but we want to see percentage-wise how much is that. Once again, our ROI is revenue divided by expenses minus 1 for our percentage, and 10%. Now, 10% in the business world is considered to be fairly decent. It's about average, anywhere from 8 to 10%. Now, in industries where there's a lot of competition, you can easily expect that number to be lower. 8, 6, 4, even 2% is acceptable in some industries. But in other industries where there's less competition, you'd expect this number to easily be higher. Say like it's 12, 13, 14, 15%. And now you have the tools available to make a fair comparison for a company from one period to a previous period, or from one period to the same period in a previous year, or between companies within the same industry, or just a peer-to-peer view examination of the performance of how a company goes, rather than just getting stuck on big fantastic numbers which really have no context without understanding how to calculate business earnings and ROI. Thank you very much for coming on by and taking a look at this. If you find the Armchair Economist remotely useful, please consider subscribing. Thank you very much and have a nice day.